Hey, you guys! Hello, welcome to In the Deep Thursday. I'm your host, Lindsay Hindle, a success strategist and host of the Bravery Lab. And In the Deep Thursday is a chance for us to get deeper into conversation about a topic that really is a lot of fun to pull apart, that has a lot of juice to be extracted. And I am so excited because today our topic is living divine disruption, and I have a special guest I'm super excited to bring on an interview by the name of Florence Achama Ukbapi. And just to tell you a little bit about who this amazing woman is, Florence has a life coaching practice, and she works with, and the words she uses to describe her work on her Facebook page sound like this: transformed over conformed, for the women of faith ready to step into her potential. I am so excited. Transformed over conformed. Oh, love, love, love. We're going to go deep into the work of Florence, what she's doing, and find out what it has to do with her role as she has adopted. It's really quite, a role of cultural change making, and what that's requiring of her as she leads this movement and brings some divine disruption to established norms. So let's bring Florence on and, add. And get into this really juicy topic of divine disruption. Hi, Florence.
Hi, Lindsay.
How are
Thanks for your
you
intro.
doing?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm doing really, really well. Have a little bit of a sore throat, so hence the lozenge. But apart from that, I'm fine.
Cool. Good to see you. Thanks for joining me.
You're welcome.
So, Florence is in the UK, and we connected through another group, and I've just been completely magnetized to her message and what you have been doing. And I'm so excited for us to talk about the work that you're doing, and really, really find out what has been so important for you to become that trailblazer, that leader in maybe an environment that could provide some uncomfortable situations. So first off, let's hear a little bit about why you are doing the work you're doing and what you love about it.
Okay, so why? Oh my gosh, we should all really know our why, shouldn't we, really? But it's like where to start. Okay, so my why has to be my own personal experience. And people often say that you are your best potential customer. Um, Usually, what you bring to the world is birthed through your own experience. So definitely, that holds true for me. My own personal experience was really coming from, well, growing up really, living a life of people pleasing, um, just feeling so afraid that I wouldn't be accepted and just wanting to be loved and esteemed by other people to the extent that I literally lost sight of who I was. I put all my dreams, my ambitions, my goals, the fire inside of me to the back burner, and it was just all about pleasing other people, serving other people. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that at all if that's what you really feel inside of you to do. But that wasn't the case for me. It became part of my identity. As a person of faith, I think that there are certain labels that we can hold on to because they make us feel better about ourselves. So I was, quote unquote, a good person, a kind person. I was a person that would fix other people's problems and really just not take care of myself. And I think the major catalyst, even though it was always brewing under the surface, and by the time I was 19, I'd been diagnosed with depression. So it was always brewing under the surface, but I guess by that time, I'd learned to cope with it a lot until I think when I reached 27, 28, and I became really, really sick super, super quickly. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just knew that I couldn't continue on in the same way that I was. My body had literally reached a limit. I went from being the person who could do all things for everyone and feeling really, really proud about how strong I was and how much I could do and how intelligent I was, etc., to being somebody who found it really difficult to climb stairs. So that was a really interesting experience for me. So that was the beginning of an awareness that the way I had been living it for the wrong reasons. I'd been living it to please other people. And because my emotions, my head, my body, they weren't in congruence, the outplay of that was what was going on inside of my body. Because obviously I was living in a place of fear. I was living from a place of fear, and that was driving all the behaviors. So I realized that I needed to break loose of this grip of fear. It definitely wasn't an overnight job. It definitely isn't an overnight job because I'm still in the process of that. But I know that I'm definitely not that person anymore. I've come so far. And so all the pain that I've gone through, all the things that I've learned, and I guess the joy, the liberation that I feel when it comes to being who you are so that you can do the work that you've been created to do, that's what drives me to share my message with other people, because I know what it feels like to be in prison, and it's not a nice place when your mind is your own prison. So I know that there are so many other people, women and women of faith, who are coming from that place where they've allowed the dictates of their culture, the norms of society, whatever groups that they belong to put them into a box that says, this is who you are, this is how you need to live, this is how you need to think, this is how you need to behave and act. And when you're doing that, when you're living from that place, you can't be fully you. And if you can't be fully you, then you can't do the work that only you have been created to do. And so I'm very passionate about helping people rediscover who they really are so that they can live the life that they want to live and do the things that they want to do.
Amazing, amazing. And so that in today's form is taking place, like your form is coaching, and you are also I guess moving into, you've picked up a new modality that you're really passionate about bringing into your work. So what is that?
Okay, so it's cognitive hypnotherapy. And I say that because when I announced this as a person of faith, when I announced this, it was met with a lot of resistance, because I guess there are these thoughts and ideas around hypnotherapy, which I totally get. I didn't make the decision lightly to go into it. It was something that I prayed over, but I felt at peace with that decision. So I announced it, and I did get met with a lot of different thoughts, a lot of different opinions as to why I was doing this and how I could integrate it with my faith. So yeah, that's been interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, excuse me. And it's so this new aspect of your work, um, you have progressed from by incorporating this element. I mean, the first step was really helping, stepping out and saying, with your presence in the world, I'm going to be helping other women to find their truth and live their truth and be the person that they are meant to be. And then
Mm,
bringing in this other element to your work has meant that you have this amazing new tool, but also this amazing like platform of cultural change that you're like
mm.
standing on. What has that been like for you, and what has that brought to you?
I think that it's definitely brought me more of a sense of self, more of a sense of um, really recognizing who I am and what I stand for and what I believe in, because it's been such a divider for me, and obviously it took a lot of courage, bravery on my side to announce that, because I knew probably what the response was going to be. But I had reached that stage where I had, as you said, I've been doing life coaching. I've worked as a mental health therapist as well, using, I guess, more acceptable tools and modalities, CBT being one of them. So I had used those, and I had seen that there was only a limit. There was a certain limit to what they could do, and I knew that I needed to go further. I knew that there was more, and I knew that, um, because I could see it, that it was in a sense my responsibility to go there, even though um, it might look strange in the eyes of other people. I knew that it was something that I needed to bring into the work that I do. Um, if I was really going to help people unlock their potential, I needed to get to the root of the problems, and that's at a subconscious level. And cognitive hypnotherapy really um, provided me with a means of understanding that area. So it was about me, I guess, saying, well, okay, I know what other people are going to think, but I believe in this. And I believe that what I'm doing is the right thing. And time will tell that it's the right thing. I don't necessarily need the affirmation or the approval of other people when I know for myself that this is something that I believe in and I feel really good about doing this.
Mm, wow. Yeah. So that I love that sense of responsibility and
Mm,
passion, responsibility and passion mixed together as
mm,
really this fuel
mm,
behind you. What I want to say is like your willingness. You
yeah,
have a great
yeah.
willingness to
Mm,
step out and say, yeah, I am going to face criticism. I might face judgment, but this responsibility with this passion
mm.
is my sustenance. I'm going to go forward despite what others might say.
Yeah, definitely. I think that, and this is why I think that my journey, my own personal journey, was so crucial to me getting to this place, because I've done the approval, and it was literally a prison to me, or figuratively a prison to me, whichever way. Um, and I knew that that's no life living like that. And
Mm.
I just feel like such a burden, to help other people break free of that. And so I can't and you put something really powerful in your group. It was a quote in your group. I can't remember it off my head, but it was a really powerful quote about you don't have time, or you don't have energy to kind of think about the small things when there's, so much that you need to do. You really have to leave those other things
Yeah.
aside.
The need of the world is too great for you to be so
Yeah,
precious with your
yeah,
fears. Yeah.
definitely, absolutely. That's absolutely spot on. There is a responsibility that we have, and that's the thing that's driven the people in the world that have done really great things. It's this idea of responsibility. If I can't wait for somebody else to do it, I can't allow my fear to stop me from being hope for somebody else, for being a light for somebody else, and really kind of, yeah, just putting yourself in perspective. If it was me, if I was in that situation, wouldn't I want somebody to step out for me? Wouldn't I want somebody to show me the way? I knew how painful it was for me. Why would I want somebody else to go through that kind of pain? Because, you know, um, I can't deal with whatever it is that is going to come towards me. And that's on one side, but on the other side is me being authentic, me being congruent. I can't say one thing and not demonstrate that in my life. So that's always been a driving factor for me, just my own personal desire to be free and liberated in myself. And so whenever I do come across this kind of resistance to this resistance or this fear, it comes up. I'm aware of it, and I know what it means to me, and I'm like, am I willing to allow myself to go back under this yoke again, or am I going to am I going to push past this? Am I going to exert myself beyond this? So that's a really big thing for me. And quite recently, I had a health scare. So it was my GP, my doctor, basically telling me that they had found a lump in my breast, and that was a game changer for me as well. Um, Again, just another wake up call around, you know, what am I waiting for? Um, there is so much more to life. There is so much in life that we can experience. And for me, part of experiencing fullness of life is being able to to share this message that what are you waiting for? All those fears, all those things, um, they're holding you back. When you get to the end of your life, do you want to say that you couldn't because you allowed the opinions of other people to hold you back? Is that really what you want to reflect upon when you got there? And I'm very aware that it's a process and it's a journey. Um, and I'm going to be on this journey for the rest of my life, but it is that moment by moment decision that we make, and just being aware, which way am I going to go? Which choice am I going to make? What am I going to focus on? The fear, or the responsibility, or the fear, or the passion, or the vision, or the mission, whatever it is, what am I choosing to focus my eyes on? And so that's really been a driving factor for me.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. So important to really get that perspective on
Mm.
ourselves. How, and I especially love that contrast between you recognizing, okay, the pain of staying small and staying hidden and not really living in a congruence
Mm.
versus the pain, like that was intolerable. And yes, you're going to face discomfort in
Mm.
living your truth and having other people maybe, make criticisms or whatever, but that, even though that can be challenging and that can be painful in itself, it's a different pain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like, I
Mm.
don't know, did you want to speak
Definitely.
to that a little bit?
Yeah. So it's one of the reasons why I'm absolutely loving the cognitive hypnotherapy training that I'm doing at the moment, because one of the things it talks about is growth versus survival. And when we're thinking about the first pain, the pain of kind of not living fully, the pain of kind of not living authentically and in congruence, we're talking about this desire to birth, to grow, to be all that we can be, and just the agony that comes with knowing that there is so much more, but um, you're not able to reach for it, versus that kind of survival pain. What will it mean if, the kind of, I guess, the lack thinking around what will I lose or what will it cost me, you know, that kind of thing. And it is really about, on that level, it's absolutely about survival. And if you're thinking from a survival response, it's always going to be fueled by anxiety and fear. You're always going to be living at that level. Um, and, I love the fact that your group is called the Bravery Lab, because when you're in a place of growth, it is really about stepping into the unknown, being brave, being courageous, and just believing in something that you can't see. That is really the crux of faith and the crux of belief, knowing that there is something more and being prepared to kind of step into it, even though you can't see. You might be able to kind of know how other people might predict how they might react and act towards you, and you kind of feel, well, that's a certainty there, so I know this is like the devil I know, and therefore, I better be wary over here and kind of not rock the boat over here, because I don't know what's going to happen if I step out. I might lose all of this and nothing happens over here, and then where will I be? It's
Yeah.
really a question of faith, believing in yourself, believing what's inside of you, believing in what you have to offer, believing in your purpose, and believing that there is possibility of more. That is what makes us truly courageous and brave to step out.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Just that reminder of the unknown space, and
Mm,
how we see the unknown space and make up stories about that
mm,
unknown space
mm.
before we're even there.
Mm, 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 mm. Definitely, 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 definitely. All those thoughts, And as I said, it becomes a prison. Your mind becomes your own prison. That's definitely no way to live. I mean, we always talk about, well, people talk about how amazing our mind is, and how powerful our mind is, to the extent that our mind can become our prison, or it can become a tool that, I don't know, helps us to reach, really high heights. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And all of that kind of unravels, which is the really interesting thing about your work is any individual who wants to up level, who wants
Mm,
to really go after what's truly in their heart and alignment with themselves, has to do a lot of personal inner work
mm,
around their own
mm,
belief systems, and
mm,
uncover those hidden beliefs they didn't know they were attaching to and living through and
mm,
projecting onto their
mm,
view of the world.
mm,
And it's almost like your work is really interesting because it's like it's an intersection of like a whole bunch of beliefs. So
mm,
there, right, like the faith a layer to it, and then like the human layer, this is my history, this is what I've how I've learned to operate in the world layer to it.
mm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. And that's really what excites me about it, to be honest. Sorry. Just this idea that it's more than what people think. Giving it a label of hypnotherapy, to me, degrades what it is. and it's about,
Mm.
because it's such a powerful tool to help foster that self-awareness. And not just self-awareness, because I think you can develop self-awareness in other ways. And through a lot of my journey, I did develop self-awareness in other ways. I journaled, I introspected a lot. You know, I wasn't afraid to go inwards because I knew that that's where the change needed to happen. But I also, it's funny how it began to unfold. It wasn't necessarily that I was aware of it consciously, that there was some subconscious things, but I was dealing. There were some things that were coming out. I would bump against certain things that I found really difficult to move past. And then I'd peel back the layers and I'd say, oh, there's a root here, there's a root here. And I would have to deal with that subconscious root before I could move forwards. And I think a lot of the time, because we're not willing to go down to the subconscious route, maybe it's too painful or whatever, we can go the long route and live in a place of pain or fear or survival for much, much longer than we need to. And if we're willing to do that work on ourselves, we could get that step further more quickly and with much greater ease, and start to change the quality of our life so that we feel that we are living a more authentic, a more full life. And I think, who wouldn't want that? Who wouldn't want to do that? Why would you want to live your life based on what other people think, or anything else? And I think the way that just God has had it, I've just been in situations through my life that has meant that I've had to come face to face with that kind of opposition and learn how to deal with it. And I think when we were speaking before, I spoke about how our gifts and everything, that they're already visible from a young age. You know, the things that will define us, the work that we do and who we are, they're already present from a young age. We might not notice them, but they already exist. But as we get older, maybe because it's been painful experiences for us, we tend to go, I don't want to associate with that anymore, and we tend to go in the opposite direction or do things that mean that we don't have to deal with it or look at it anymore. But really, that's our strength. That's where we get our gift. That's where we get our passion and motivation from. And to be able to accept those parts, I guess some people might call it the shadow side or something, to be able to accept those parts of ourselves is a really powerful thing, because there are other people dealing with it who need liberating from it. And if we're too afraid to look at those parts of ourselves and hold it up to the light, then we're actually kind of telling those other people to be ashamed of who they are and their own experiences and what makes them them. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you have a particular memory that stands out to you about that you have
Um,
come to see and develop that wisdom?
yeah, I mean, I had a recent experience actually, um, during one of the modules in cognitive hypnotherapy training. Um, so it's around being visible, or it was around being visible. Um, Growing up, I didn't feel comfortable about the way that I looked at all. Um, and as an adult, I was always aware of that. So it would show up in different ways. But I guess it was only, I guess, this year that I really began to pay attention to how it was showing up for me. It showed up in the way I dressed. in the mm, yeah, in my appearance, but also in how visible I allows myself to be in my business. I was doing okay, but I knew that I could do better if I got over myself in relation to being visible. But I also knew that there was something there. There was really something there. It didn't matter how much I said to myself at a conscious level, um, it's okay, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I knew that there was something there that needed to be dealt with. So I made the decision to get some work done on this area. And it was a very emotional experience. I went back to a memory and it was really, really emotional experience. And it opened another memory for me. And it made complete sense why I had been choosing to not be as visible as I could. If I looked back at the root of this fear of being visible. And it's so funny, as soon as I did the work, it was like, you wanted to interview me, somebody else wanted to interview me. You know, it was just so many opportunities came my way. And that's one aspect. But if I hadn't done the work and those opportunities came my way, would I have responded in the same way? The chances
Ah,
are that I wouldn't. So it's not even just the opportunity being there, it's how we respond to the opportunity, how we show up when, you know, the opportunity is presented to us. So
mm,
it's really, really made me aware of how small things that are buried in our subconscious mind can hinder our progress moving forwards. Yeah. Was that the kind of example that you meant?
mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think in like a really neat way, it kind of like ties up this really interesting theme that has been like there through this whole conversation, in that to be like a disruptor, to be a change maker, to be a cultural leader or a leader of any kind of movement, it comes back to not just removing fears of what other people will think, but removing the fears of ourselves against ourselves.
Mm,
So, like,
mm,
the fear, you removed the fear of going within and finding that root,
mm. Yeah, yeah.
right?
That's so powerful, Lindsay. Just what you said right there is so, so powerful.
Yeah.
Definitely. Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
so it's like this duality. It's like this, we have these fears that we project outward that we're scared to
mm,
deal with, and we have that like self fear, the fear of the self that we project
mm,
inward. And both of those
mm.
combine to keep us stuck.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. And I think it's the fear of ourselves which creates the fear of the external world, you know. Um,
Mm,
I can
yeah.
definitely see that through my own life experiences, the choices that I've made, really not trusting myself, you know, being afraid that I would make the wrong decisions or just not knowing who I was. So when you don't know who you are, it's hard to trust that person because you're not sure. Um, you, I guess it's a bit like if you meet somebody for the first time, you don't really know them. So how can you really trust them?
Right, right.
Yeah. And if you
Yeah.
don't know yourself, how can you really trust yourself? So that's why we kind of tend to look externally to get that validation and that acceptance from other people because we know them more than we know ourselves. And we're like,
Mm,
okay, if you say that it's right, if you say that it's good, then it must be right. I can't trust my own opinion, my own beliefs. I can't, you know, I can't believe in what's going on inside of me.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, validation is tricky that way. It's interesting.
Mm,
Validation and criticism are tricky that way, right? It's like we can lean on other people's perceptions of us, their encouragement to a certain
mm,
degree. But at some
mm,
point, our trust and our faith in ourselves has to be the main driver of our
yeah,
action forward, because that
yeah,
exterior validation will never be enough to get us
mm,
fully all the
yeah.
way.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And that's why, as you said, right back, that inner work is so important. If you don't take time to do the inner work, then you don't have, I guess, you don't have access to the resources that you need to do the work that you want to do or to create the life that you want to create, because you'll always be stuck by what will other people think, you know, what will I think about this step that I'm taking, or anything else that comes out from the woodwork.
Yeah. So would your so thinking about the people in the bravery lab, some of the
Mm,
people are really wanting to be out there leading with their message. They're almost like wanting to be breaking the mold and like moving society forward into a new
mm,
dimension, or bringing their creativity out into the world. What would be what would be your kind of like main piece of advice for where they could start if that fear of doing that, of being that leader, that change maker, that cultural change maker, breaking
mm.
norms, if that fear is really present for them, what would you say as a starting point to move through that?
I think it always has to be the desire to get to the root of it, because there's only so much you can do consciously and intentionally. If you're moving forwards and you're finding yourself repeatedly getting stuck, then you know it's not going to budge no matter how many times you try to. You need to find out what's keeping it there so that you can move it out of the way, or it can be moved out of the way. So I would definitely say, explore yourself, explore your beliefs, um, subconscious programming, definitely, because it it can open up so much. Just that awareness of why we are being the way that we are. It's, in a sense, it's very liberating, um, and empowering. And the change that happens once you let go of those beliefs, I guess sometimes we're so tied to our beliefs, it becomes a part of our identity, that we don't recognize that there's a different version of us outside of being connected to that belief. So it's always exciting, um, to know what could happen if we were to let that go and allow something else, something better in that space. What could we do? What could we release into the world if we were to let that go?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that it's sort of now it's reminding me of a faith parable. What is that saying about you can't remove the log in someone else's eye before
Oh,
you take
yes,
your own?
yes, yes. About taking the log out of your own eye and not seeing the speck in somebody else's eye. Yes.
Yeah. So for those who want to go out and lead change and disrupt the status quo in our society, it all starts with being willing to disrupt yourself, disrupt your own beliefs,
Yep,
disrupt your
yep,
own storyline.
yep, yep, yep. Yeah, it's definitely about being brave in the way that counts the most. Being brave and going inside into your own internal landscape. That's, I guess, the most treacherous landscape there is. And you have to be willing to face that. Um, I guess, uh, it really does come down to being authentic and congruent, because if you can't do that, if you're not willing to do that, then what exactly are you offering to the world?
Mm,
We only have ourselves to offer.
mm,
So that's
mm.
what it really comes down to.
Wow. Yeah. Oh, love it. So good. So good. Oh my goodness. So much wisdom.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's been amazing to have you on In the Deep Thursday and to open up this topic and get into like the juiciness of it. I appreciate you so much and
Mm.
all the work you've done on yourself and what you are doing in the world. And really, I am so excited to follow your journey and see how the next stage unfolds for you.
Yay, I'm excited as well. It is a journey, absolutely. But it's a journey that, we all can and should go on. I do believe that. Yeah. So much joy to be had in it.
Mm, wonderful. Thank you for sharing your message.
You're
I
welcome.
I hope you have a lovely evening and we will be following up with you if you leave some details about where people can find out more about you in the comment
Yep.
section of this live, and then people can stay in touch. And yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you, Lindsay.
Okay, thank you, Florence.
Bye.
Bye.